Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of The Millennial Athlete. I'm your host Tanvi, and unfortunately, I'm going to be hosting this episode alone because my co-host Shlok has ditched us. Shlok, we miss you, but we hate you for ditching us. Anyways, to make up for that, I am really happy because I have on the show with me a friend, a co-Scottishite, and more importantly, a co-Rafa fan. I mean, I fan is like an understatement here, but
Yeah.
yeah, we have Sachika Balwani, who is also a national level squash player. So thank you, Sachika, for coming on the show and looking forward to a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to it.
Yeah. So, guys, just to give you a little background about Sachika, we were in school together at Scottish, and she moved to the US, studied in the US, then played for Trinity College, played squash for Trinity College, finished her undergrad in film studies, right, Sachika?
Yeah, it was double major in English and film studies.
What a
English
noble
was more my
achiever.
thing. Yeah, I
Noble
tried.
achiever. I mean, squash, double major.
Yeah,
Yeah, so what brought you back to India and you got back to competing on the PSA tour? Tell us a little
yeah,
about.
it was a really funny, unexpected turn of events, I feel like, because I moved back because I feel like I'd always wanted to. I went to the US when I was 14, which is incredibly young. And you don't know who you are at
Yeah,
all. Not that
yeah,
I know who I am right now. Um, but I think I always wanted to move back. I never actually lived here as a young adult, even
yeah, yeah.
in my teens, and I just thought I would give it a shot. And so I moved back recently in about 2017,
Okay.
and actually wasn't going to pursue squash full time. It's incredibly hard. We've had this conversation many times to be a
Yeah,
sports
yeah,
person.
yeah.
But I just ran into my coach one odd day, out of nowhere, and he just suggested it. And at first I was like, no. And he managed to convince me, and I've been missing the sport already. You know how it's really tough to kind of just step away from something that's basically been your lifeline. Yeah, I ended up getting back into it, and kind of haven't looked back ever since.
Good to have you back on the circuit. You've had a fairly decent run since you've gotten back. Your run at the senior nationals was noteworthy, and I mean I'm sure the lockdown has messed things up for everyone.
For sure,
But
yeah,
yeah, I hope
yeah.
you've been keeping fit. I mean, yeah, that's another thing I forgot to mention. So Sachika is this fitness freak, also a plant-based athlete. I wonder why. I really wonder why you don't. You're not a Joko fan. I mean, Rafa's. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, I've been a Rafa fan since I started watching tennis, and I was actually thinking about this last night because I think I got into watching tennis because of Rafa. I used to play tennis, but I never really watched it. And at that time, it was just whatever was on TV here, and my parents used to watch once in a while. And I just remember walking in and seeing this guy in sleeveless t-shirt and bandana, and he was fight. The sleeveless t-shirt and bandana has nothing to do with my love for him, but but he was just fighting and like giving everything on court. And when you're an athlete, even when you're that young and you're playing any competitive sport, that's your goal,
yeah,
to leave everything out there and kind of just give that much, in every moment and in every shot. And I remember my dad. Obviously, Federer was huge at the time, and as he still is. And my father would be like, "Oh yeah, Federer, this Federer," and I'm like, there's something about this guy though. So yeah, so with Rafa, it's been since I was very very young. I used to have a poster, on my wall, even in school in the US and stuff like that, and it was this very intense shot that he's playing. You
yeah.
just walk in and be like, wow, that's very interesting. I'd be like, but it gets me really like, motivated and inspired. So I think it just runs deep with Rafa. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so we had obviously the last 2 weeks have been a lot of drama. The Roland Garros has taken center stage. We've seen, some of the seeds fall in the early rounds. There has been quite a lot of drama around the event with the whole
Yeah.
Naomi Osaka discussion, and yeah, I mean, even in terms of results, it's been a good 2 weeks. So we did a part one, where Shlok and I actually, we predicted who our favorites for the tournament were. We discussed the Naomi Osaka mental health scandal that has gone viral on Twitter, and
Yeah.
we were to do a part two where we thought we would sum up the tournament and just take stock of how the tournament has actually panned out, and yeah, so I mean, I'm looking forward to having that chat with you.
Yeah.
I'm sure you were following the tournament from day one, and then
Hmm.
come the Rafa Joko, the match of the tournament, so to say. uh, we both got into depression. So how did that, what's your take on that great intense match that went down?
It's really funny because whenever a big match is going to happen, people always text me as if like I'm Rafa and I have nothing to do with this. So people are like, oh, how are you feeling about tonight? And I'm just like, just FYI, I'm not actually playing, but I feel like really pumped up about this. And it's really funny because I spend the whole day waiting for the match to start. And then when it begins, I'm so nervous that I'm like cleaning, doing laundry, like making peanut butter or
Yeah.
like something like that. And all the chores just start because I need
Yeah.
to keep doing something. But it was just such a fantastic match
Yeah.
to watch. And, it's beyond a point, be it 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I would get even sadder if Rafa lost, as I'm sure, you'll understand. But, after winning 13 times and just kind of being the kind of player he is, you can't expect anyone to keep winning. You know that. I know that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was still such a fantastic match to watch. And sometimes, I mean, Djokovic played unbelievable tennis. And you just have to kind of sit back and marvel at the tennis that that you're able to watch. And I think it wasn't his day, and his day will come back. And we just have to keep fighting. So yeah, that was, but it was incredible to watch. I mean, the level of tennis was, I was speechless at some points. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's one quality about Rafa. I mean, you fall 9 times, stand up 10. That's what we've
yeah,
marveled. And yeah, I mean, he was pretty philosophical about the whole defeat. It had been built up, trying, is he going to exceed the number of Grand Slams that Federer has won?
yeah,
They were both out there to create history. And
yeah,
but he walked off the court as a true champion, a true gentleman,
yeah,
saying that I will come back. This is my favorite tournament, and I will come back next year and try as hard. So, we love
yeah,
you, Rafa. We love you, Rafa. Looking forward to your 14th title next year.
yeah. I'm pretty sure I commented that on his Instagram. I was just like, no, we're ready. Like 2 hours later, I was like, 2022, we're coming for you. And I was just like, the last thing you want to hear, at least for me after a match, is like, next year. And I'm like, okay, give
Yeah,
me a minute.
give me a
But,
minute.
yeah. But no, I'm sure he'll be back. And I definitely want to try to make it, hopefully live to the clay season. I've actually seen Federer play live and I haven't watched Rafa play live.
Okay.
So it's like in my world, it's something that really
On
has
the
to
on the
happen.
bucket list. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
But talking about men's singles, as an event at the Roland Garros, we did see, Djokovic, of course, you know, he was pushed a fair deal by Lorenzo Musetti and almost, was knocked out of the tournament. If I'm not mistaken, it was 6-7, 6-7, 6-1, 6-0, and then 4-0
Yeah.
is when he retired. The 19-year-old has beaten, the likes of Schwartzman, Wawrinka. He's been, he's an Australian Open junior winner, and he's already beaten the big guys. Someone to
Yeah.
really look forward to. I'm really looking forward to some good results in the future. But Djokovic, I mean, he's done this with everyone. He did it in the finals as well, where he's kind of just playing on till the third set and then raises the level of his game, gets into this zen mode and just mows down opposition. I don't know whether it's a tactic or he's just conserving energy till then. What do you think?
I don't know. And if I ever meet him, I'll definitely ask him. But with the Lorenzo Musetti match, I enjoyed that match. And as someone who's as you are so emotional about Nadal matches, to watch high quality tennis where you're not just quite emotionally involved is very nice sometimes because you can just sit back and enjoy. I really enjoyed that match. But I remember thinking, oh, we still have up. But I was like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
Djokovic. That
yeah,
that might as
yeah,
well be
yeah,
love all.
yeah,
Because it just he's so good at keeping that mental strength. I think all of them are really mentally strong, and I'm sure I know Nadal has done it, Federer has done it. They've come back from absolutely nowhere and won. And I think that's really something that sets them apart. In just the fact that there's mental strength, and then there's people like Federer, Nadal, even a Murray, Djokovic, Serena Williams. They're just able to go to a whole other level.
yeah,
Um, and I think that's something that I mean, it definitely inspires me, and I'm sure it's inspiring a lot of up and comers.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable, and he did that, so even against Rafa to be one set down in the French Open against Rafa, who's literally lost twice in like 200 years. But it's to be like down like that and know you're up against him and then still win in a very close contest. I mean,
yeah.
I that didn't feel like four sets to me, you know. Um, so it's just, and of course the Wimbledon with Federer, which I remember Federer being at match point, and I'm still getting over the fact that Rafa is not there in the final. So I've like walked in, walked out, and I can still hear Wimbledon going on, and I'm just like, I don't understand how this match is not getting over. And
Yeah.
my mom walked out of the room, and she said, I don't know, he's making a comeback, and I'm like, what you say, and so I went back and I was just like, what, like, what do you mean? I thought Federer won like half an hour ago, but he just does this. And I remember watching an interview of his after that match, which I think was really very, very nice to listen to. But he said, and if I'm not mistaken, he said, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so he basically said that when he was hearing Roger, Roger, and the crowd chanting Roger, he was hearing Novak, Novak. And I just thought, well, millions of people are watching this. There's so much noise, and to be able to block all that out and then switch how you're thinking is just unbelievable. So, kudos to him. Yeah. As much as it's like, okay, Rafa didn't win and I'm very, very sad. You have to kind of give credit where credit is due. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's what makes him the champion that he is. And he recognizes the fact that, his mental strength, his experience, his ability to deal with high pressure situations and actually get calmer as the situation actually gets
Yeah.
tenser. That's what distinguishes him, from the rest of the upcoming youngsters who are fairly inexperienced. So he's in fact gone on record to say that he enjoys playing these close five setters. He enjoys being pushed to the hilt by
Yeah.
newcomers, and because it tests him. It just gives him that extra confidence that the level is there, and I'm gonna come back. I know who the boss is, but let's play this out.
Yeah,
So
for
as much
sure.
as we hate to say it, we respect you. We do not idolize you, but
It's just Rafa's here,
yeah,
he's
yeah,
just
yeah,
here.
yeah.
But of course, Novak is plant-based. And I'm, that's one thing that is something that I look to for him. But any other tournament, I'm definitely obviously a Rafa, backing Rafa for sure. But
Yeah.
I do think that over the past 1 year we've seen two new Grand Slam champions, which is we don't see that in men's tennis, at least since I started watching tennis, but it's coming closer and closer. So like you were saying, they're pushing these guys. It's not easy. I don't think any of them are having it easy at all. Even Nadal, when he was playing, the smaller clay court tournaments, then
Yeah.
the Masters tournaments, was pushed,
Yeah.
by Shapovalov and others, to almost losing the match. And I think they're catching up, and it's experiences like playing a five setter with a Nadal or a Djokovic that's gonna then allow them to,
Yeah. Yeah.
get there in the end.
Yeah.
So I
Absolutely.
think in the next year or two, it's gonna be maybe gonna be some changes. Not with Nadal, but
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
yeah.
Also, coming to the Greek god, as I call him, someone who I think has the potential to topple, the top three goats,
Sure.
is Tsitsipas. Put his heart out there, played the tournament of his life. Clay, as we all know, is an extremely hard surface to play on. Purely because you need the physicality, you need the good legs, you need to be quick, you need to be fast. It's not just your ground strokes or a big ace that's going to power you through the match. You need to be physically ready to play those rallies, recover from sideline to sideline. And I think Tsitsipas is there physically, but in the final he just fell short. Do you think it was
Yeah.
mental? Do you think it was physical?
You know, um, I think he was also someone who was up against Djokovic in the final of the French Open, and he played amazing, for sure. I think I remember the first time I watched Tsitsipas on TV, maybe I don't know, 3 years ago or something like that. But he plays with such freedom, in his shots. He's always just he's looking calm. His and I know you'll relate to this because there's sometimes when you're playing and you just feel like a little tense. But he always is able to kind of let go of all the tension. Also, it seems, he plays with a level of just freedom, which everyone pretty much strives for, and that was there this whole tournament. I think mentally he was something else as well.
Yeah.
You never really saw him get too wound down or get too despondent.
Yeah.
He was just there the whole time, and I think he deserved to win as much as anyone, I would say. And in the final, I may or may not have been leaning towards the past winning. But obviously I was very sad, especially when I saw that he was leading. But he's done superb things in the Australian Open against Rafa as well. Being 2-love down and then winning, and I don't know if anyone has done that in living
Yeah.
memory. But yeah, I think he's I don't think we're going to be waiting too long before we see a Tsitsipas winning a Grand Slam. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So exciting times. Of course, we had Roger create waves at the Grand Slam, on the Grand Slam circuit after a while. I mean, he's had his surgery, he's come back and shown the world that class is permanent. And of course, knew as a true champion and an elite, knew when to pull back because he played a couple of really tough matches, recognized that his body, has probably taken a little bit of a beating. And I mean, I'm looking forward to Wimbledon. That's of course his surface, and yeah, I'm sure he's prepping big time.
Yeah, I mean, it when he obviously started making a comeback, and it's been so long since I think we saw Roger on TV playing tennis, and I just remember thinking, I mean, this has got to take some serious, not just prep and all of that, but just the mental strength off court, to wake up. It's a different mental strength, I feel like, to be strong in a match, but then to wake up every day, every single day, when there's no cameras on you, there's no spectators and all of that, and say, okay, you know what, today I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make a comeback in, I don't know how was it, like more than a year since we last watched him
Yeah,
play a
yeah,
match,
over a
you know,
year.
and to say, okay, in more than a year from now, I'm gonna be back playing tennis, and he's already had such an amazing career, you
Yeah.
know. To wake up and keep going like that is legendary, you know. And I've over the past few years, not so much when I was younger, but over the past few years, I have enjoyed the Federer Nadal friendship slash rivalry even more. So I like that he's coming back, and maybe we'll get to see a little Fedal action. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the three goats, I think the debate is still on. I
Mm.
think Novak has a slight advantage right now, but yeah, Rafa has all our hearts.
Yeah.
Novak's a little bit in the lead purely in terms of results, and Roger's just
Mm.
been there forever. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's
I
see.
think it's
Let's
like
see
I think
what.
it's yeah, I think it's his personal preference. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I don't even think, like, when people keep, you know, you any of them play and then you go on social media, everyone has posted all the numbers. And I'm just like, I
yeah,
just don't think you're gonna be able to change a Federer fan's mind,
yeah,
or a
yeah,
Rafa fan's mind, or a
yeah,
Djokovic fan's mind. So it's
yeah,
just personal preference.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it
yeah,
just it really just it could be, I don't know, what's your favorite color? You won't be telling someone whose favorite color is green. No,
yeah,
but you know,
yeah,
yellow
yeah,
is in this time or
yeah.
this season. It just comes down to personal preference. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So before we move into a short break, I think we'll take this thought forward in our next segment as well. Greek tennis is definitely on the rise. We've of course discussed Tsitsipas, but Maria Sakkari played the tournament of her life. Had a great run, beat the likes of Lina Svitolina, Coco Gauff, and eventually lost out to the winner of the tournament, Barbara Krejcikova. In a marathon 9-7 in the decider. She deserved to play the final as much as Barbara did, but unfortunately went down fighting. But yeah, we'll probably touch upon that in the next segment. Stay tuned, guys. You're listening to the Millennial Athlete with Tanvi and Shlok. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. You're listening to The Millennial Athlete with Tanvi and Shlok. I'm still in conversation with Sachika Balwani. And yeah, we're just about to get into a little chat about the women's singles draw at the Roland Garros. I mean, we've seen for the first time, I think, in history or the second time in history where all the four semi-finalists have never won a Grand Slam, and it was anyone's shot at actually lifting the trophy. And we did see this Greek goddess, Maria Sakkari, play the tournament of her life, really topple some of the in-form seeded players, and finally went down fighting to the eventual champion, Barbara, in a marathon match. Sachika, did you happen to catch that match?
Yeah, I think it was one of the matches I really, really enjoyed. I was just stunned at just their mental strength. I obviously I've not watched too much of Krejcikova before, but I have obviously seen Sakkari because she's played some really great matches. I actually enjoy following her on Instagram because her workouts with her coach are really, really just goals. And I think I think one of the more physically, she's just
Yeah.
amazing
Yeah,
in just how
yeah,
physically
yeah,
fit she is and how strong she is, and it clearly
yeah,
shows on court. But I really enjoyed the match. Yeah, it was anyone's for so long.
yeah,
I think both of it really stuck in it. There's not a point where you can say, oh, and then it just started to, tip towards Krejcikova or tip towards Maria Sakkari. But because honestly, till the end, it could have been really anyone's. Which
yeah,
is it was always one of those wonderful matches to watch. And to be at the receiving end of a loss in a match like that is I can only imagine how painful. At the same time, I'm sure she took a lot from the fact that she really hung in there, and it was just superb to watch.
Absolutely. I think it was one of those matches. I mean, we've all been through a couple of those matches in our career where you're in the flow, you've given the match your all, and you physically put everything you had in the tank. You've mentally brought everything to the table, but sometimes it's just not meant to be. And I think that's basically what Sakari had to go through on that particular day. It definitely was, Barbara Krejcikova's tournament. She won the singles title, she won the doubles title.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, because, just a year ago, she was, I think ranked out of the top 100. She was 114 and was clearly not a favorite coming into the tournament. But hats off to the grit, the determination, and the physicality that Sakari brought to the table. Like you mentioned, her workouts, she's known to be one of those physically strong women out there. So did get to see a lot of powerful ground strokes and a lot of grit and determination in all her matches. So looking forward to a good season ahead. But coming to the eventual champion, I think Barbara has stolen the show. What do you have to say?
I think her most standout quality of many was just how calm she was throughout the whole thing. She never showed even a sign of tension. Usually, even if a player is not outwardly sort of maybe talking to themselves or saying anything or screaming, she just you'll see a little bit of tension here when they think, but she just looked completely crease free, and calm, and it was such a wonderful thing to watch, because I don't think no one really, you wouldn't have predicted going into the tournament. Obviously there was Halep had already withdrawn, but there was in Osaka, there was Svitolina, and all these great players who won slams before. And you never think that, Krejcikova is going to come out and win the French Open. So maybe that took off a lot of load in terms of pressure. But still, playing at that level, and keeping such a calm mind and so much composure, I think that was just a very, very standout quality for me. It definitely is something that I would aspire towards, and that level of calm to just be able to think shot by shot, even with so much pressure. I remember thinking when I was watching the match against Sakari that I can feel the tension. I'm sitting in Bombay, I'm watching just on TV, but I can feel the tension in the air of this match. And I was getting, goosebumps. So I can't imagine how she held it all together. And kudos, she 100% deserved to win. And I'm sure it's going to be a really good season from here on out. Wins like this tend to really help with confidence. I think really seen that even, with someone like a Karatsev who, had a really couple of good wins. Pablo Andujar was another one where he had a really good win, and then he was able to follow it up to get the added sense of confidence. And I'm sure there's a lot that's going to come from her. It's really exciting to watch for sure.
Absolutely. Like you mentioned, in fact, I don't even think she really let out, like this victory, the sign of winning. She's won a Grand Slam. I would have probably been on the floor with, this crazy display of emotion and, relief more than anything. But she just it was just a simple stump and, like job done, good day at office. And
I think not celebrating might be the new trend in celebrating. I think Medvedev is also doing that. I personally really like Medvedev, and obviously his game, but also the way he's just, it's okay, just one of the biggest wins of my career, but that's fine. But she was completely stoic and zen, and it was really wonderful to watch.
That's the kind of emotional control that millennials, I think, need to strive towards. If you can keep calm in victory and defeat, I think that's literally a goal.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of, one second. Yeah. So in terms of seeds, I mean, I would love to see Barbara actually building on this, because we've seen champions sometimes, you hit a purple patch and you actually go the length of a tournament, win something big, and then with that comes a lot of responsibility, comes a lot of pressure, because there are sponsors now involved, everyone's eyes are on you, opponents are watching you, videoing you. So we saw that with
You gave me tension. Yeah.
so we saw that with Iga Swiatek as well. I mean, she was my favorite coming into the tournament. She was the defending champion and was in great form. Went down fighting to Sakari. So I mean, she did mention that some amount of the expectations, the pressure of being defending champion had built up to some extent.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something I would like to see with in Barbara's case as well. But moving to some of the other players, women's singles players in the draw, I've been following Coco for a while. I think she has great potential. What do you think?
Oh, 100%. I mean, she's still 17, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's unbelievable. Oh, wow. I don't know what I was doing when I was 17, which pretty much sums it up.
Yeah.
um, no, it's exciting, and I actually really like her off court. I
Yeah.
have a thing where I always look at when I just end up really looking up to someone as a player. I also follow them, and it's so easy now with social media to do that.
Yeah.
But follow them as a person off court as well. And some people are just really stand out, and Coco Gauff seems like she would be a superb role model to kids her age, well, players her age, and other kids as a player and as a person. And I think that's something which came for me personally because of Rafa and how he is off court and setting that bar really high as a player and as a person. And I think very few people really get to that level and then keep a level of humility that is very, very seen by everyone. And I really enjoy watching her play, and she doesn't come off as a 17-year-old, so when I'm watching
Yeah.
I forget.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think she's gonna. It's just a matter of time before we see, maybe I'm gonna say winning a slam even in the next year or two. I think is highly possible to go off. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, American tennis has been dominated by the Williams for the longest time. And again, looking forward to the Wimbledon, a better performance from Serena at the Wimbledon. But yeah, Coco is a face to look out for. Uh, Coming to the highlight of the tournament, I think mental health has resurfaced as a hashtag on Twitter, on social. Virat Kohli put out a tweet the other day stating the importance of, psychologists and mental health actually being, more less of a taboo issue within teams, especially, having the right support staff in place, so that if a player is, really not feeling up to it, or has something going on mentally and needs to take a break, it's not frowned upon. He can actually walk up to the coach and say that something's going on in my head, and it's not that I'm lazy, but I really need to sort this out. So I think mental health has come back into the picture. We saw Naomi seeded second in the tournament, put out this tweet saying that she's not going to be doing any press conferences at the Roland Garros, and it had nothing to do with, her personal, anything personal with the tournament or the officials, but it was, just her own mental issues. She's been dealing with depression for a while, since her win at the US Open in 2018. And wanted some time off from this constant media eye. And as a person, she is an introvert, so What do you think? I mean, was she justified in taking that stand, or as a public figure, as someone whose job it is to be answerable to the media, she has to do her job?
I just have nothing but respect for Naomi Osaka. And I think, it's tricky, of course, because I understand maybe to a point, as a lot of the players who were asked how they feel about it said, well, you have to speak to the media and stuff like that. But at the same time, you can't give from an empty cup, So I think she needs to do what serves her first, and she's nothing but, sort of the pinnacle of grace and humility and hard work. And it's very difficult to play when you're struggling mentally. I think everyone in the world has struggled at some point, to whatever intensity. But it's tough when you're an athlete, and as you said, there's so much relying on you. Whether if you're doing well, then it's, I need to keep it going. I need for the sponsors. I need for people who are following me, the press. And then if you're not doing well, that's a whole other kind of tension, because if you're not doing well, you have nothing coming in. And as a professional athlete, that's incredibly difficult to deal with. And of course, having a support system around you is incredibly important. If there's even something off there, it can really, really trigger so much. And I think, if Naomi Osaka has said she needs time, then she needs time. And beyond a point, I mean, I've definitely struggled mentally, and struggled with my mental health, and at some point it's definitely felt like this feels like a physical injury. I mean, I've had the physical injuries in the past where I've had, say, a stress fracture in my back, and I was out for months, and I was on crutches, and at the time I was applying to colleges. So, it was a very bad time to have that kind of injury where you're trying to convince a coach, yes, I'm really good at squash, but you're on crutches. It doesn't really work,
Yeah.
And it's a very difficult place to be physically. But I've also been, and I'm sure everyone has at some point, been at a level in terms of my mental health where I can liken it to a physical injury, where it feels like I'm, if I were, say, in bed with a broken ankle, this would be the same kind of pain. And it's obviously, you don't think of it like that, because if you have a physical injury, you can withdraw and no one's going to say anything, and it's not going to be a big deal. They'll just say, hope you get better and hope it's nothing serious, and that's it. And I think the best part about the sort of the reaction that followed was the amount of support that Naomi Osaka got from different players. I mean, when you can see the top comments, all the athletes just wished her well and understood. And I think that's really important, because her speaking up so honestly and making herself vulnerable in so many ways, it sort of filters down into obviously the rest of her tennis world, but also to the rest of the sports, and then towards pretty much everyone else, because sport has such a long reach. And I think I mean, you had everyone talking about it, whether you follow tennis or not, so I think it definitely had an impact, and hopefully these conversations will continue, because it's so important, for sure.
So I really hope she sorts herself out mentally and makes a comeback at Wimbledon, because she has faced a fair amount of backlash with her statements, and that itself takes its toll. Social media trolling does take its toll. So yeah, she's had a lot on her plate, and I really hope she comes back stronger. Anyways, so on that note, I think we've pretty much covered Roland Garros 2021. And yeah, it's been a fun conversation. Thank you, Sachika, for doing this.
Thank you. First thing in the morning, you made me praise Rafael Nadal. I'm not at all, but thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so if you Guys, if you like this podcast, do check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to them on the IVM podcast app or on ivmpodcast.com. You can follow the Millennial Athlete on our Instagram page, which is at the rate the Millennial Athlete. If you have any questions for me or Shlok, you can write to me on tanlad93 on Instagram, and Shlok is available at Shlok95 on Instagram. Sachika, where can we find you?
Instagram. It's at Sach Balwani. So SACHBALBANI.
Awesome. So thank you, everyone. We will see you very soon with a fresh episode, and hopefully my co-host is back in the studio. Shlok, I hope you're listening. On that note, see you guys. Have a great week.
Should we stop the recording?